Thank you for joining me, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess can we start with some introductions and explain what your interest is in the connected car?
Yeah, Geir Skaaden, Chief Product Officer of Xperi, and we're long history in the car industry, primarily starting with radio. So our DTS AutoStage platform, which is connected radio platform primarily, is in over 10 million cars at this point. And believe it or not, close to half of them have some form of video offering. So we're very excited about the opportunity to see how we can extend our TiVo platform into the car as part of that initiative.
Okay.
Good. My name is Maximilian Baur. Nice to meet you and being here. So I'm working for Joyn. We're a video streaming service available in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And yeah, I'm responsible for the partnerships and business development team. So we're looking for all kind of CTV partnerships, mobile partnerships, gaming console partnerships, so kind of every device where our Joyn app is available, that's part of our part. And we're looking into business development opportunities and therefore also for new reach and revenue streams, and therefore quite happy to say that we're one of the innovative companies, being a first mover, at least in the German-speaking regions, that is now working and enabled for automotive. And yeah,
brilliant.
Looking forward to discussion.
So starting with you, Geir. So obviously Xperi and the brand TiVo, which it's part of, they have been around for a number of years. I believe about 30 years in the industry. Obviously TiVo famous in pre-streaming for its DVR functionality, and these days more you're bringing along your own connected TV services as well. So what was it when you looked at the car industry that made you think we need to get into this space?
Well, I think, like I said, I think we worked with the car industry for over 20 years, starting with radio, really as the main media. And I think as we saw the industry evolving, there was interest in video. I think you highlight a lot of the trends. I think from an automotive perspective, the auto companies, I think what they're looking at is how do they build reoccurring revenue other than the car itself? So whether you pay for the car up front fully, or you lease it or finance it, they're looking to drive revenue from their users beyond that initial car payment. And I think you highlighted it in your speech pretty well. They're bundling all kinds of services to make sure that, whether you pay 10 pounds or 20 pounds a month on top, that connectivity package is attractive. And I think they see video as an interesting component of that. I think furthermore, they're also looking at monetization opportunities, and that relates to the data in the car as well as consumption of media in the car. So I think those business drivers are essentially the fundamental piece behind it. And then I think as the cars evolve, I think you highlighted screen displays, and I think there's clearly different perspectives there. But I think you'll see majority of cars going into more of a multi-screen environment. You highlighted the back seat. I think the passenger seat, is next. If you look at what's coming in the next 18 months in new cars, I think you'll see, what you see in the main screen have gotten bigger and bigger.
Yep.
I think what you'll see next is that there will be multiple screens. So you have a multi-screen strategy, and that all of a sudden, increases the opportunities for viewership as well, because the passenger obviously can watch all the time while the driver is driving. So I think those are some of the main trends, and I think that we feel that we're participating there, and we think we have something to offer.
Okay. And for you, Maximilian, what was it about the car that made you feel this was the right time to start looking at partnership opportunities and bringing your content into the?
I think right now with our distribution business, we're already quite covered in the market. So we are available on all CTVs, all mobiles, all desktop versions. So therefore, of course, in-car entertainment is a further, let's say, emotional touch point for our users. So on the one hand, it's clearly that we want to offer our service, our contents to our users in everyday life, everyday situation, and therefore especially car is a super emotional touch point. That's one component. Secondly, I definitely see a strategic value behind of it. And by our DNA, I strongly believe in strong strategic partnerships that we want to create straight from the beginning when a market is evolving. And I think therefore right now it's the exact point in time. And I liked your comparison with the CTV market, because I also always compare it with the CTV market in 2010, 2011, at least Germany, when the first smart TVs hit the market. Everybody was super excited, everybody was looking about what is the opportunity, but on the other hand, a little bit cautious about development efforts, how it will scale, how is the market penetration. But look where we are right now. CTV is one of the most, if not the most important distribution stream for long-form video content. So I believe in a strong potential for in-car entertainment, where we are not yet, but therefore want to create exactly these strategic partnerships like with Xperi, like with BMW, straight in the beginning, and together create that market and scale the business.
And for both of you, talking about the partnerships, you both have experience dealing with traditional streamers and operators.
Yep.
For in-car OEMs, this is an entirely new space.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share some of your experience and how it's different dealing with an automotive company rather than dealing with a company that has their DNA in media?
Yeah, I think one of the big shifts that we see in the automotive industry is direct engagement with software in general. So I think the car companies are realizing that the cabin is becoming, the environment in the cabin is probably more important than the technical driving capabilities of most cars. And that requires software. And I think the connectivity is a component. The other component is consumers' acceptance for upgrades. So I think with all our connected cars, we upgrade it all the time, and it's not a problem. And I think that is inherently a big opportunity to evolve the experience, because I do think we're in the early innings in terms of what the experience should be in the car. And I think traditionally, when we started with radio, we would work with the OEMs, but they would hand off the whole media cluster to a third party. So think Harman, Bose, Visteon, Bosch, they would deliver the whole media cluster. That's completely changed. Now they're looking to have a platform, whether it's Android Auto or Linux, and they want to build the components themselves and control those components because they realize it's essential to the end user experience, which they want to control. And second, there's business opportunities ahead that I think they all recognize that they want to have control over as well.
I would totally agree and chime in about car OEMs need to learn how software development and releasing works, so totally agree. Maybe give me a couple of sentences to give a brief overview what Joyn is, because I think that helps in the further discussion as well, because Joyn is not available in UK, so we are an aggregator. We are powered by ProSiebenSat.1, so one of the biggest broadcasters in Germany, Austria and Switzerland, and we have over 100 linear TV and fast channels. We have exclusives, live events, whole catch-up content, and it's completely for free from a business model perspective. But users can upsell to Joyn Plus, it's the subscription package, get further additional, let's say, uplifts in the content proposition. But for me, important is that AVOD piece from a business model perspective, because we have close to zero entry barriers. Exactly when users right now buy a new car, they want to experience it, they're not stuck in subscription flows. That just as a side note. And beside of the topics you mentioned, Geir, especially what we recognize, therefore want to give that background as well, we are a software company, so we are super agile, we need to work flexible, we need to stay flexible because that market is very, very fast pacing. And there was one main topic we discovered with car OEMs. Initial thoughts when we had initial discussions already 3 years, 4 years ago, they mentioned, how does your product, how does your content roadmap look like in 12 months? And I was like, guys, I can't give you any kind of a detailed answer because I'm happy when I know what the next quarter will happen. So therefore that period of planning, that time horizon topic, that was definitely a massive issue. And there we also recognize these are car OEMs. They have 6-month, 12-month planning circles. They have hard milestones. They are not yet into that whole software development, software delivering topic. But especially the teams, they're working with us as media companies, they very fastly recognize that. They speed it up, and that gap is definitely vanishing. But that was the main difference we recognized.
So when it comes to surfacing in-car content, I guess, how does it, from technical side, what are the differences in terms of how you approach the interface and trying to reach the, make sure that the content is suitable for the journey? And from a content side, how do you think about it? Are you using it as the same kind of content that you would have at home, or are you thinking about creating custom content for it? for the vehicle. So I guess, firstly, from the user experience, how does it differ from creating an operating system for a smart TV, for example?
Yeah, I think you have to think about the viewership in general. I think, a smart TV household for us spends, 2, 3, 5 hours a day with the TV on, which is great. You're not going to get that in cars. So there's much more shorter segments of viewership. So I think on the one hand, there's a lot of parallels with CTV, and I think we can carry a lot of that experience over, but the discovery is really the key from our point of view. And what we're seeing is that there's a lot more in what I would call snackable content, so local content, things that are relevant in short form, but really in the car, personalization is going to be the key element to drive engagement, because you can just look at the screen, it's still a lot smaller than a TV. There's a lot of content out there, and I think about what we see as our brand promise and problem to solve today as TiVo is how do we make it easier for you to find, watch, and enjoy the content that you're looking for. In the car, I think that's even more relevant. And someone mentioned radio. I think we're exploring radio as a gateway to video. And as you pointed out, the car companies that have a fully integrated system, they have the ability to surface video content when the environment and the driving conditions are correct, whether you stop or you are in a certain autonomous type condition. So you can promote the video in real time. So think about it more as a pop-up screen as you're going along. Because I think the number one thing we're trying to do is to get people off their phones. To be quite frank, we want people off their phones and enjoy the screen, which can be much better experience and much more immersive. And I think if you can succeed there, then the promised land of what we're talking about here is real. And just to be 100% clear, it's not real today. Engagement on video today is horrible, to be perfectly honest. But that doesn't mean that it can't get better, because I think all the trends you pointed out are going in the right direction. But I think that's why we're looking, since we have an radio platform, everyone listens to radio. Yeah. So we want to try to use that to pull people into video, but in order for that to work, you need to have relevant content that's instantly turn on, so that the user can have a lean back experience that's relevant for them without having to just search around.
Now, from your side, is it a case of surfacing the same content, or are you thinking about that short distance and that targeted for the vehicle?
As mentioned, right now the market is more like an innovation marketing case. So therefore the distribution potential, the revenue potential for an ROI is quite limited still. So therefore for me, clearly it is right now an extension of our existing proposition. But with a live broadcaster behind of us, I think as all broadcasters maybe in the room, we have a quite unique proposition already, because especially contents with a live character, in my point of view, work perfectly fine, and with the existing experience already provide a true value. Because imagine you're getting stuck in a traffic jam, but you have linear TV in your car. Imagine your national soccer club playing World Championships final, you can watch it right now. So there is already a true value by the existing proposition. Nevertheless, I totally agree. I mean, we see first user data coming in as well. So we see right now from a user behavior perspective, it's quite comparable to other form factors. So split between VOD and live assets, contents that are getting watched. So it's also quite variety, which is interesting, between kids movies, so long form, as well as action movies, so also long form. Not even snackable or serious contents. Right now it's more long form contents. So therefore, yes, right now it's more like an extension, but I totally agree. As soon as the distribution potential will be scaling, we see a clear benefit. We can definitely discuss about more native integrations, deeper integrations into the whole car system, and then maybe we see that short form, mid form content, hyper localized on the live location of the car might be a suiting match, but the users can discover further contents to watch at night at home at the CTVs. So yes, right now extension, but with a massive potential for a unique experience maybe in the upcoming years when the market scales.
Sorry, your mention about the consumption of the long form content, and sorry, I know this isn't a question that we've sort of rehearsed. Yeah. So content mobility then, how important is that? Are you able to see, are people starting that long form content in the car and finishing it later, or are they picking it up on the next journey? And I guess from your side, is this something that you're thinking about looking at as well, making sure that those experiences can carry from one place to another?
I would say in general that needs to be the aim of every content provider, independent if it is a mobile device, a CTV device, a desktop or a car. If you start watching a content, independent which platform, which hardware you use at the end, for example, in the evening, you need to resume watching and get the contents promoted. So yes, definitely that's something we see, and I think that's an additional beauty. With more cars getting into the market, more cars capable of autonomous driving, in general, the video consumption in the cars will scale, that is my assumption. Plus, on the other hand, users see different contents, they discover different contents, maybe start while charging 20-30 minutes, but resume in the evening. So therefore that additional touch point definitely comes along, and that definitely needs to be the target for all broadcasters.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think as a platform, what we're trying to do is make it seamless for people to carry their accounts further. So if you think about, regardless of what your subscription or content relationship you have at home, you may have to sign in or register your car as another device, but as soon as that happens, it's seamless. So that whatever you watch at home continues in the car, and yeah. So I think that to me is essential for this to be successful.
Okay, brilliant. So I think we're coming up. So I guess the final question, it's always good to finish on that sort of blue sky thinking. So 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, where do you see, as we've discussed here, we're not there yet, but we're heading in the right direction. What does it look like for both of you? What does this in-car proposition turn into?
Well, I think first of all the trends that you pointed out in your presentation, I think will continue from my point of view, and I think that opens up the opportunities. So there'll be tens of millions of cars. I think curating the experience and the discovery element and having the right local content, I think is going to be critical for success. So ideally, the experience in my mind should look very different than the TV or phone or what you're seeing in the car today. So this is all about learning and adopting and making the experience unique for that level of experience. And I also think it'll be highly localized. In China, for example, which is maybe not a relevant market for this audience, you see very different user behavior around video than you do in the US and Europe. So I think taking that into consideration, having a platform that are adoptable, that you can continue to evolve, I think is where the opportunity set is, and ideally that turns into meaningful advertising revenue for platforms, for content providers, and ultimately the car companies, because that's, I think, their primary interest here, is to see the economic opportunity long term.
Also, what you mentioned previously about the speed of scaling, I would even see that this will be massively upspeeding, because you're right now, totally agree, there are more cars coming to the market with assistant screen built in that is not distracting the driver. So full video usage, long form, is already capable for passenger seat driving, while driving scenarios, plus autonomous driving license 3 got upscaled to 95 kilometers. So even the driver can right now watch contents driving with 95 kilometers. So the scaling potential is massive in the next years, and therefore agree, I would really hope that it will change the experience massively, because cars have a unique proposition. You have 20, 30 speakers built in. You can play around with climate control. You can play around with all the lighting part. So the potential for a true cinematic experience is massive and can be even more intense, like in cinemas or at home. So for me, coming from a broadcaster, in a perfect, peaceful vision would be exactly in these hectic times we live in, even bringing back classic TV moments, so creating bonfire moments for the whole family. Imagine the whole family driving 2 hours, 3 hours, watching the same show. That is exactly life that they want to watch. And for me, that peaceful vision is something I would love to see in the next upcoming years.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do we have any questions? Oh, gentleman there.
Thinking probably more towards the advertising side of things, are there any regulatory things to be aware of? How do you see it? Hello?
Yep.
So thinking probably more towards the advertising side of things first off, are there any regulatory concerns that you'd probably would want to put forward that may regulate what we see in the initial phase? I mean, things that may affect us to look at e-commerce within this space. I mean, what would be right to get people to think about buying whilst they're driving versus information, for example?
Yeah, I think maybe the primary concern there is the the data privacy in general, which I think would apply similar in the car that you would have other places. So that certainly is a constraint because you have a lot of information about everything that's going on. I think the other thing I would say though for advertising to work, you need the short form content to come up. It's a simple math. You need higher ad frequency in the car than you do at home, and higher ad frequency is much more prominent in short form content. So if you think about YouTube, if you flip in and out of YouTube, you'll see a lot more ads over an hour period than if you just watch a long form content. So I think the fact that you can surface content that people seek. So if there's a news clip or something relevant locally or something that's relevant to you personally or programming that you have close association with, you lean in. Then pre-rolls or post-rolls are viable products. Because I think you got to get there in order for the monetization to be real, given what you're seeing in terms of overall viewership.
Nothing big to add. I think especially in the ads business, it's also interesting to see, of course, ads are visible, but not clickable partially, because they are not yet open browsers in the main cases. So like affiliate topics right now, I would see massive regulations. But for me, from a streaming perspective, the main regulatory part is really the legal framework, but that happily have been done by the car brands and car OEMs itself. In which situation is car streaming possible and allowed for driver, for passenger, etc. But that topic gladly got covered completely by the car OEMs itself.
I would like to add though, as we've mentioned before, the rear screen is the most direct route at the moment. A passenger screen is coming, as discussed. So when you think about that rear screen, it is worth remembering that quite frequently it's going to be children who you are advertising to. So the same kind of precautions that you would take advertising on a children's TV channel might be worth at least having in the back of your mind in this scenario for the time being. Not going forward, as it becomes more accessible, your audience will get wider, but I think it is something worth considering that a lot of the time that is who's going to be watching that rear screen at least.
I also think radio advertisers should be, one of the best opportunity sets in our opinion, because think about it, that's in the US, that's a $13 billion industry. They have obviously a connection to the car audience for multiple reasons. If you can enrich that experience, you'd expect to get higher value versus trying to convert a TV ad into a car, I think is, because of all the things we talked about, maybe more difficult.
What about 5G broadcast? Do you see benefits, interests?
Yeah, I think one thing is, you talk about what has changed. I think when we started out with AutoStage, which essentially is a over-the-top internet connection that enhances the radio experience, everyone was concerned about data. In the sense that, how much data are you going to use? Who's going to pay for it? That concern is gone. Everyone that's implemented videos, like, yeah, the more they stream, the better. We don't care. We've got fixed plans. The car is 100% connected all the time. So I think that's a huge leap when you think about how the car companies are thinking about video, because before that would be the number one problem. Who's going to pay for the data? I think now the streamers, pay for the delivery. The car companies pay for the connectivity. Is considered a fixed cost, sunk cost, if you will. So it's all open in that sense.
But also from a quality perspective, you can even watch 2 streams in parallel via 5G without any issues. So that's absolutely not an issue at all.
So that's
Yeah.
What about the technology side of things? Using some immersive audio, you've got potentially HDR in cars and so on. What formats do you need for your in-car entertainment, as opposed to mobile phone or home?
Well, I think on the one hand, there are some constraints. The screens are getting bigger, but how big can they be? If someone is using an 8-inch screen TV at home, they might still think it's small. But I think the overall engagement with so I think there's a huge opportunity for technology innovation, and the fact that you have the audience captured, if you will, and in a fixed environment that's predictable. If you think about creating an immersive environment at home, the problem is everyone sets up their home differently. So even though you can spend a lot on audio innovation in that sense, you don't really know how it's set up, right? So in the car, there's a lot to gain in that respect, because even if it has some constraints, it's fixed and known in advance. So I think it's a great place for innovation in terms of the user experience.
What's the route to market? Like, will you be able to run it programmatically in the future?
You mean the advertising?
Yeah, the advertising route to market.
Yeah, I think that's an opportunity. I think like I mentioned earlier, I think the radio advertising market is probably more likely to see the upside in the car than TV advertisers.
Thanks.
Okay, and that's all we've got time for now. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you to you all for your attention and your questions.